Clearly influenced by his Christian inheritance, Heidegger declared, quote, being is the transcendence, pure and simple. It's not clear that the Mayans had a notion of transcendence. Rather, they lived in a milieu of concrete involvements with implications alternately propitious and threatening. At the same time, like the Chinese, coming together in propitious spatial arrangements, which aligned rulership with the fundamental natural conditions and the ancestors, establish a time out of time which enabled them to reflect upon the flow of everyday existence. The opposite of transcendence is human finitude, and of course, death and its analog infirmity are regularly invoked in the rites, usually under the rubric of sacrifice, regarded variously between a gift and a penalty. Often accompanied by judgment, it's hard not to recall the Anaximander fragment here in the Nietzsche translation. Once things have their origin, there they must also pass away according to necessity, for they must pay penalty and be judged for their injustice according to the ordinance of time. We have here the basis for a sacramental interpretation of life. The spatiality of our modes of involvement is one of the greatest contributions to the experience of transcendence. The spatiality underlining the transcendence of being has both an extensive ontic dimension, manifest in the topography of embodying claims and affordances, from objects ready to hand, to furniture, to architecture, to the urban or rural context, or an urban or rural context. And on the other hand, an intensive ontological dimension, manifest in the movement or communication between embodiment and articulation, bearing echoes of the movement between chthonic and celestial. Architecture, considered as an horizon for praxis, offers a microcosm of this larger conditions, which allows us, as it were, to take transcendence for granted. Since Romanticism, the ancient dialectics of interior and exterior has gravitated around the properties of the interior life, as something like psychology. As Dalibor points out with respect to surrealism, the house is a metaphor for the imagination. In the midst of a whole ever more obscure to us, and expressed in a language of mathematics and technology, we have cultivated a species of sanctification of everyday life as a manifestation of the so-called rights of the individual. This has allowed us to neglect our obligation to the whole, which was a truth acknowledged by the ancient cosmologies and is probably the basis for any plausible notion of beauty.